The royal ship of the Zelari Empire, a giant vessel made of silver and glowing crystals, floated silently in the deep black of space. It was shaped like a crescent moon and carried more than just soldiers. It carried royalty. Inside its grand halls, made of shining glass and floating lights, walked Princess Valera, daughter of Empress Tylara, ruler of the Zelari people. Valera was young, proud, and curious. Like all Zelari, her skin shimmered with light, and her eyes glowed with silver-blue energy. But unlike others of her kind, she always questioned things. For weeks she had been hearing whispers about a strange, alien human locked deep in the ship's lower chambers. He's wild. One guard said, "He tried to fight 10 soldiers when we caught him," said another. "No, he just stares at the wall all day." A third one laughed. Valera couldn't stop wondering. What kind of creature was this human? One evening, when her mother was away in a diplomatic meeting, Valera put on a plain cloak and slipped away from the royal chambers. She moved through secret passages, used codes only royals knew, and finally reached the lowest part of the ship, the prison deck. The air smelled different, here cold, metallic, and quiet. Most cells were empty, but at the end of the hallway, a single door showed signs of life. Small red light blinked above it. She pressed her palm on the scanner. "Access granted. Royal ID confirmed," the system said. The door slid open slowly, inside. Sitting against the wall with his arms crossed was the human. He looked different from what she expected. He had short brown hair, a strong face, and tired eyes. His clothes were torn, and there were scars on his arms. But he wasn't wild. "80!" Wasn't shouting. He wasn't dangerous. He just looked calm. He glanced up. "Well, this is new. Did I win a prize or something?" Valera raised one eyebrow. "You were joking?" "Of course," he said, shrugging. "Not much else to do here." She stepped closer. "You are the human named Ethan Ward?" He nodded. "That's me. Captain of the Earth Defense Unit. Or, well, was. My ship got shot down. I think your people dragged me out before it exploded. Thanks for that, I guess." She tilted her head. "Why did you enter our space? Were you spying?" Ethan laughed. "Trust me, I didn't want to be here. We were chasing pirates. They escaped into your zone. We followed. Next thing I know, boom." Valera stared at him for a moment. He didn't lie. She could tell. "No one told me your species could speak our language so well." "I learned fast," he said. "Also, your translator tech is really good." She blinked. "How long have you been here?" 22 days. Not that I'm counting. Food's awful, by the way. I miss bread." That made Valera smile, just a little. "I am Princess Valera," she said proudly. "Daughter of Empress Tylara?" Ethan stood up slowly. Much taller than Zelari men. He didn't kneel or bow. Instead, he just gave a polite nod. "Nice to meet you, Princess. You're not here to torture me, are you?" Eyes widened. "Of course not." "Then this is already my best day here," he said with a grin. Over the next few days, Valera returned again and again. First, she said it was to study him for diplomacy reasons. But deep inside, she was simply curious. Ethan told her stories of Earth cities filled with moving machines, skies full of flying ships, oceans that stretched forever. He spoke of music, art, dancing, and wild weather. She listened like a child. Hearing fairy tales in return, she told him about the strict life of royalty. She spoke of arranged marriages, political pressure, and how everything in her life was planned except for moments like this. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes they argued. But every time she left, she felt her heart beat faster. One evening, Valera brought him something specialer. Handheld viewer filled with Earth music videos. Ethan's eyes lit up. "Wait, you found this?" "Where?" I asked the archive keeper, she said. I told him it was for research. "You sneaky little rebel," he smiled. They sat on the floor together, watching old videos from Earth humans dancing in groups, playing strange instruments, singing with passion. Valera was fascinated. "Your species is emotional," Ethan chuckled. "Yeah, we're messy. Loud, emotional, But we're also loyal and stubborn. You can't break us easy." She looked at him with new eyes. "You were not afraid when you were captured. Why?" He looked at her gently. "Because fear is a choice, and I had nothing left to lose." She was silent for a long moment. Then she whispered, "You're not like anyone I've met before." "And neither are you," he replied. The next day, disaster struck. General Caro, powerful Zelari noble who had always wanted to marry Valera, discovered her secret visits. He followed her, saw her talking to Ethan, and returned to the Empress with angry words. "This human is corrupting your daughter," he shouted. "He's dangerous, disrespectful. Let me deal with him." Tylora, cold and proud, was shocked. Her daughter, speaking to a human prisoner? It was shameful. She ordered Ethan to be removed from the ship and sent to Torgen's Pita prison mine on a dead moon. When Valera heard the news, her hand shook. "No," she whispered. "You can't do this." But the Empress refused to. Listen. That night, Valera made a choice. She ran to the prison level. The guards were gone. She had called them away with a fake emergency alert. Using her royal code, she opened Ethan's door. He stood, surprised. "What's going on? They're sending you to die," she said. "I won't let that happen." "What do you mean?" "I'm getting you out." Ethan stared at her. "You'll be hunted. We'll lose everything." "I already lost everything the moment they said I couldn't choose my own life," she said. "Now move." Together, they raced through hidden passages. Valera knew every tunnel, every blind spot. She had studied the ship's map since childhood. Alarms began to ring, but they were already gone into her private escape pod. Hidden deep in the ship's underbelly, as they launched into space, lights and stars flashing around them, Ethan looked at her in awe. "You really did it," he whispered. "I did," she said, sitting beside him. "Why?" She turned to him, her eyes glowing with quiet fire. "Because if the universe asks who you are to me, I'll say this: you're mine." The stars around them were bright and endless. The escape pod moved fast through space, far from the royal ship of the Zelari Empire. Inside the small craft, Princess Valera and Ethan Ward sat side by side, breathing heavily. Ethan looked at the controls. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere they won't follow us," Valera said. "There's a neutral zone, planet called Cyrenine. No empire controls it." "Do you even know how to fly this thing?" he asked, half joking. She gave a small smile. "I'm a princess, not helpless." The ship jumped into warp. Behind them, the alarms on the royal cruiser were still ringing. The Empress would be furious. The entire empire would be searching. But Valera didn't care. They arrived near Cyrenine after a few hours. The planet was dark green with misty skies. It was a trading hub, full of travelers, smugglers, exiles, and those who didn't care about rules. The city they landed in had tall silver towers, rusty streets, and signs in 100 alien languages. Ships came and went like buzzing insects. Ethan and Valera covered themselves in plain clothes. Valera wore a hood. Ethan kept his Earth uniform hidden. They found shelter in a small inn run by a friendly old alien with 4 eyes. The room was tiny, with only one bed and a broken light, but it was safe. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed. "So, we made it." Valera looked out the window. "Yes, but we can't relax. My mother will send trackers, soldiers, even bounty hunters." Ethan leaned back. "Great, so we're wanted criminals now." She turned to him. "You didn't have to come with me?" He laughed. "You broke me out. I didn't have much choice." "You could have told me to leave you behind." He looked at her seriously. "And miss all this adventure with a glowing alien princess? No chance." She smiled, tired but warm. Days passed. They took small jobs to earn food. Ethan worked in a mechanic's shop, fixing old engines and repulsor lifts. Valera helped a local trader with translations. She had studied many languages growing up in the palace. They ate simple food, slept in the same room, and learned about each other in ways they never had before. Ethan learned that Valera hated royal balls. loved painting, and secretly dreamed of visiting Earth one day. Valera learned that Ethan missed his little sister, loved rain, and once rescued a puppy from a fire. They began to laugh more, sit closer, talk deeper, but danger still followed them. One evening, while walking back from the market, Ethan noticed something. A shadow. Someone was watching them. He grabbed Valera's arm. "Don't look, just walk." She tensed. "What is it?" "Someone's tailing us." "Maybe a bounty hunter." They turned into a narrow alley. Ethan ducked behind a wall and waited. A tall, armored figure followed. The stranger stepped forward, raising a weapon. "The girl's worth 10,000 credits. Step aside, human." Ethan didn't. I said, "Step aside." Ethan moved fast, grabbing a pipe from the ground and smashing it against the weapon. The fight was quick, but rough. The bounty hunter was stronger, but Ethan was faster and smarter. Valera threw a stun grenade she had hidden in her robe. The blast knocked the hunter out cold. They ran. Back at the inn, Valera paced the room. "They're getting closer." Ethan nodded. "We can't stay here." Valera looked at him. "We need a new identity, new names. We start over. And then what?" he asked softly. She stopped. "Then we live. But for how long? We can't hide forever." She looked into his eyes. "Would you rather go back to being their prisoner?" He didn't answer. Valera stepped closer. "I know I gave up everything, but I don't regret it. Not for a second." He looked at her. "Neither do I." There was a long silence. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small ring made of wire and crystal. She had made it during the quiet hours while Ethan slept. She held it out. "This isn't royal. It's not gold. It means nothing to my people. But to me, it means everything." Ethan stared at it. "What are you saying?" She smiled shyly. "On Earth, you give a ring when you want to choose someone, right? I'm choosing you." Ethan took the ring slowly. "You're serious?" Completely, he slipped the ring on his finger. "Well, princess, looks like you've got yourself a human." The next day, they moved into the outer zone of the city, where aliens of all kinds lived in peace. There were no patrols there. No questions. They made a new life. Valera worked at a small school, teaching young aliens about culture and languages. Ethan fixed broken ships and became known as the quiet human with fast hands. They shared a home, a real one this time. Small, warm, filled with laughter and quiet nights. Sometimes they danced to old Earth music. Sometimes they just sat on the roof watching stars. But peace never lasts forever. One night a message came. Valera checked the screen. Her face turned pale. "What is it?" Ethan asked. "It's from someone inside the Empire, a friend." "What did they say?" "My mother has issued a royal hunt. If we're caught, you'll be executed. I'll be locked in the palace forever." Ethan's jaw tightened. "She's not giving up. She never does." He walked to the window. "So what do we do?" Valera stood behind him. "We go back." Turned sharply. "What? You want to walk into the lion's mouth? If we keep running, they'll keep chasing. If we go back together, maybe I can make her see reason." Ethan looked at her in disbelief. "She's the Empress of the Zelari. She doesn't do reason. I have to try," Valera said firmly. "We can't live in fear forever. And if I'm to become queen one day, I must face her." Ethan was quiet. Then he asked, "You think she ever accept me?" Valera touched his hand. "She may be the Empress, but I'm her daughter, and I've made my choice." Later that night, as they packed their things, Valera looked at Ethan. "You're still with me?" He nodded. "Always," she whispered. Then we faced them together. They left the world of shadows behind, heading straight into the heart of the empire that had once held them apart. Not as princess and prisoner anymore, but as partners. The journey back to Zelari space was dangerous. The borders were tightly watched. The Empress had placed alerts on every gate and patrol station. But Valera had planned it well. They didn't use main travel routes. Instead, they flew through asteroid belts and dusty trade lanes. They changed ships twice. Ethan used fake ID codes he had created while fixing engines on Cyrenine. Valera spoke to old contacts, former tutors, traitors, and secret allies who still remembered her kindness. After 5 days, they reached the edge of the Zalari core system. Ethan looked out the ship's window. A huge planet glowed in front of them. It was covered in crystal towers and blue clouds. The capital, Zelaron Prime. Still time to turn back? Ethan said quietly. Valera looked at him. He nodded, though. His heart felt heavy. They landed not in the city, but on an older space station nearby. Valera had called ahead. She had one last ally, here Lady Myron, her old caretaker, who now worked as a peace advisor. Lady Myron was tall and sharp at her voice smooth like glass. She hugged Valera the moment she stepped off the ship. "My child," she said, "you've caused more waves than a comet in a storm." "I had to," Valera replied. "This is Ethan, my partner," Ethan said, offering a hand. "Lady." Myron shook it, giving him a long look. "You must be very brave, or very foolish." Ethan smiled. "Bit of both, I guess." Inside the station, they sat in a quiet chamber. Lady Myron listened to their story. The escape, the chase, the time on Cyrenine, the proposal, when they finished. She stayed silent for a while. "You're lucky you're still alive," she finally said. "Your mother was furious. She nearly sent a war fleet to that neutral zone." Valera asked. "Do you think she'll talk to me?" "She will now," Myron said. "The council is pressuring her. Half the noble houses are nervous. The other half admire your courage." "And what about me?" Ethan asked. "You?" Myron smiled. "You are the most dangerous part of this entire mess." "Yes," she said. "You're human. A species outside the Empire. Unknown. Untamed. You represent everything the Empress fears: choice, change, and freedom." Valera stood. "Then we'll face her. Together." Lady Myron nodded slowly. "I'll send a message, but be ready. She may speak calmly, but she never forgives easily." 3 days later, the reply came. A royal shuttle arrived on the station, guarded by elite soldiers in golden armor. It was cold and silent inside. Ethan and Valera stepped aboard, hand in hand. They were flown to Royal Hall 4, a tall dome of blue crystal and white marble. Inside were nobles, scholars, generals, and the Empress Tylara herself, sitting on a silver throne. Wearing robes of shadow and light, she looked at them with icy eyes. "Valera," she said, "you have returned." "Yes, Mother," Valera replied calmly. "And you brought the prisoner you freed." Valera stood tall. "This is Ethan Ward. He is not a prisoner. He is my chosen partner." Whispers filled the hall. Nobles turned and gasped. Tylara raised a hand. Silence returned. "Do you understand what you've done, child?" she asked. "You broke laws. You disobeyed royal command. You left your duty." "I followed my heart," Valera said. "And I followed what is right." Tylara's voice turned cold. "Right? You call this right? Standing beside an outsider? A human with no blood ties to our people? A man who brought nothing but chaos?" Ethan spoke now. "I didn't ask for any of this. I didn't want war. I was just trying to survive. But when Valera came to me, I didn't see a princess. I saw a person willing to risk everything for what she believed in." "And what? Do you believe in human?" the Empress asked. "I believe in choice," he said. "And I believe in her." A pause filled the chamber. The Empress looked tired, but her voice was sharp. "There will be a trial," she declared, "before the people and the council. They will decide if you are worthy to remain in this empire." Valera stepped forward. "I accept." Tylara looked at her daughter for a long time. "Then prepare yourselves. The trial begins at first light." That night, in the royal guest quarters, Valera sat by the window. Ethan joined her. "You okay?" She nodded. "Just thinking. Tomorrow decides everything." He sat beside her. "You were amazing today," she smiled. "So were you." He looked out at the city's towers glowing like fireflies in the night. "I still can't believe all this." Valera leaned against his shoulder. Whatever happens, we face it together. The next day, the trial of worth began. The grand chamber was filled with nobles, warriors, scholars, and even some regular citizens. Floating cameras sent the trial across the planet. Valera stood before them, her voice calm, her face steady. I know what I did was against tradition, she said. But our traditions were made for another time. We cannot shut ourselves away from the universe. We cannot deny love and truth. She spoke of Ethan not as a human, not as a soldier, but as a man who respected life, stood with honor, and gave her freedom. Being royal means more than obeying old rules, she said. It means leading forward. Then Ethan spoke. Not perfect, he said. I don't belong here by birth. But I know loyalty. I know sacrifice. I didn't come to break your world. I came because one person in this empire made me believe it was worth fighting for. He paused. Princess Valera chose me, not because I'm powerful or royal, but because I treated her like a person, not a prize. That's the kind of world I want to build. The hall was silent. Then slowly murmurs began. Some whispered support. Some shook their heads. The Empress stood. You've said your words. Now let the council decide. While the council met in secret, Ethan and Valera waited in a quiet garden. Whatever they choose, Ethan said. I don't regret anything, Valera. Touched his hand. Neither do I. After an hour, a guard arrived. The council is ready. They entered the chamber again. Talara stood in front of her throne. The council has spoken, she said. You are not to be punished, gasps. Echoed. But there is one condition, she added. If you, Ethan Ward, wish to stay in this empire and stand beside my daughter, you must complete the Rite of Honor the Warrior's test. If you fail, you must leave. Ethan nodded. I accept. Valera's eyes widened. Are you sure? He looked at her and smiled. I do anything for you? The Empress gave a single nod. Then the test begins tomorrow. That night, Valera sat with Ethan near the edge of the palace gardens. You don't have to prove anything to them, she whispered. Yes, I do, he replied. Not for them. For us, she kissed his hand. Just come back alive. He grinned. I'll try my best. The sun had barely risen when Ethan found himself standing before the massive gates of the warriors' arena. It was a vast structure made of dark stone and glowing blue runes. Around him, dozens of Zelari warriors gathered, their bodies strong, and proud eyes filled with judgment. Ethan's heart beat faster. This was no simple test. This was a trial by fire, a tradition older than the empire itself. He looked over at Valera, watched quietly from the sidelines, her eyes shining with pride and worry. The arena master, a tall man with silver hair and battle scars, stepped forward. Ethan Ward, he called, his voice booming. To stand beside Princess Valera as her husband, you must prove your worth. You will face the Rite of Honor, a series of challenges designed to test your courage, strength, and wisdom. Ethan nodded. I am ready. The first challenge was physical. The arena transformed into a rocky battlefield. Huge mechanical beasts made of metal and energy roared to life. Ethan faced them, armed with only a staff and his wits. The beasts charged. Ethan dodged their strikes, using quick moves and careful timing. He used the staff to trip one and climbed a rock to avoid another's laser blast. The Zelari warriors watched in silence, surprised by the human's agility and determination. At the end, Ethan stood victorious, but exhausted. The second challenge was mental. He was placed in a hall filled with shifting walls and glowing symbols. He had to solve puzzles to find his way out before time ran out. Ethan focused. He remembered lessons from his Earth training, logic games, and the stories Valera had told him. Slowly, he moved through the maze, solving each puzzle. When he reached the exit, the crowd cheered softly. Valera smiled proudly. The third and final challenge was the hardest. Ethan was brought to a quiet garden where ancient weapons lay on stone pedestals. He was told to choose one and face a champion of the Zelari warriors. The champion was General Karo, the same man who had tried to imprison Ethan before. Kara was tall, fierce, and deadly skilled. Ethan felt a cold shiver. This fight was not just for honor, it was personal. They bowed and began. The battle was intense. Kara attacked with speed and power, his blade cutting the air. Ethan used his staff, dodging and blocking. He waited for the right moment. At one point, Kara landed a strong blow that nearly knocked Ethan down. But Ethan stood firm. He remembered Valera's words. For us. With renewed strength, Ethan countered. Using his staff to disarm Kara, the general stumbled and fell. The crowd gasped. Ethan extended his hand to help Kara up. The general looked at him, surprised. You fight with honor, human? Kara said quietly. I accept you. The ceremony followed. Ethan knelt before Empress Tylera, who watched with a cold but respectful gaze. Ethan Ward, she said, you have passed the rite of honor. You are worthy to stand beside my daughter. She turned to Valera, and you have chosen well. Valera smiled softly. Who is this beside you? Empress Tylera asked. Looking directly at Ethan, Valera took Ethan's hand and held it high. This is your new son-in-law. The crowd erupted in cheers. Ethan and Valera stood side by side. No longer prisoner and princess, but equals. The Empress stepped forward and placed a silver necklace on Ethan's neck, a symbol of acceptance and honor. This is not the end, she warned. The Empire will watch you both. But today, peace begins. Ethan looked at Valera, feeling hope. Together, they walked down the palace steps, ready to face the future. The grand hall was alive with the sounds of celebration. Banners flew from high ceilings, and lights shimmered on walls made of crystal. The people of the Zellerai Empire had gathered for a ceremony unlike any before. At the center stood Princess Valera and Ethan Ward, hand in hand. The whispers that once filled the palace had changed into cheers. The story of a human and an alien princess had spread like wildfire. The Empress Tylera, seated on her throne, watched quietly. Her face was stern, but calm, a sign that, despite her doubts, she accepted the new path. Today, the Empress announced, we honor the joining of two worlds, not by blood, but by choice. The crowd erupted. Valera looked at Ethan, her eyes bright. This union is a symbol, she said, of courage, love, and the future we build together. Ethan smiled. I never imagined I'd stand here. But with Valera, everything changed. After the ceremony, they moved to the palace gardens, a quiet place, with glowing flowers and soft music. Valera took Ethan's hand. It hasn't been easy. No, Ethan agreed. But every moment was worth it. I looked up at the stars visible through the glass dome. My mother will watch us closely, but I believe she wants peace more than pride. He nodded, and you showed her what that looks like. Days turned into weeks. Ethan learned the ways of the Zellerai court, how to speak with honor, how to lead, how to be patient. He was not just a husband. He became a bridge between humans and Zellerai. Valera stood proudly by his side, no longer just a princess, but a queen in the making. Together they worked to unite their people, but not everyone was happy. Some nobles whispered in dark corners, I'm happy with the humans' rise. The old General Caro, while respectful, still doubted Ethan's place. One night, as they walked the palace halls, Valera stopped. Ethan, she said softly, there are still dangers, not just from outside, but inside. He squeezed her hand. We faced them together. Then came the crisis. A neighboring empire, jealous of the Zellerai's strength, sent a fleet to the border. War threatened. The Empress called a council. Ethan stood before the leaders. We don't have to fight, he said. There's another way. He spoke of Earth's lessons of diplomacy, cooperation, and trust. Of strength and unity, not division. The council listened. Slowly, fear gave way to hope. Valera watched Ethan and felt pride swell in her heart. Here was a man who had crossed galaxies and cultures, who fought not with weapons alone, but with heart and mind. The Empress nodded. You have changed this empire, Ethan Ward. You are no longer just a human. You're a son-in-law of the Zelari. Peace talks began. Humans and Zelari worked side by side, sending messages, opening trade, and building friendship. Valera and Ethan's story became a legend. Well, it's told two children as the beginning of a new era. One quiet evening, they stood on the palace balcony, looking at the stars. Ethan turned to Valera. Do you think we made the right choice? She smiled. We did. Together, he took her hand. No matter what comes, we face it side by side. The stars above seemed to shine brighter, eh? New chapter had begun.